Hello and welcome to the NFL Big Match Preview brought to you by NFL Insight. I'm Andy Richmond and welcome to our preview of Super Bowl 48 between the Seattle Seahawks and the Denver Broncos as the two number one seeds go head to head for only the second time in the last 20 years. And of course we've got a fantastic matchup as Super Bowl 48 pitches the NFL's top offense, which is Denver, against the league's best defense in Seattle. In previous meetings when that's happened, it's been defense that's come out on top. The only winners from the offensive side of the boards in San Francisco back in 1989 when they defeated Denver, who had the top defense on that occasion. But it should be a fascinating matchup. So what are we going to cover? Well, we're going to take a look at the betting markets, reflect on how the two teams match up their season so far, and most importantly look at those important tactical facets within the game before we round out our preview with a small sample of our live match trading statistics, which form the basis of a lot of our trading decisions and strategies which we'll be putting in place on Sunday night when we'll be trading Super Bowl 48 live in our chat room. Now take a look at the match odds first and compare them with our master tissue. Well, the Broncos are slightly shorter than we think they should be. They're around 1.86 with the bookmakers, a spread of 2, possibly pushing even to 3 for the Broncos. They've been very popular publicly, and the Seahawks, surprisingly, a little bit neglected, but that's probably more because the Broncos are a public team. You can see on our handicap, we'd actually make this a pick-up. We'd make this virtually an even money chance of a game. So if you're betting, we think there's a little bit of value with the Seahawks. Let's see how the prices shape up on the exchanges. We'll take a look at the Matchbook exchange there, and you can see straight away Denver Broncos 1.88, Seattle 2.1. I think there's a little bit of value in that. And also on the handicap, it's a 1.5 handicap there, brings the sides close together. You can get a little bit more, and that might even push a little bit further, and I'd be inclined to take the Seahawks plus the points. The points in the game, well, that's been an awkward conundrum. Obviously Super Bowls, they can be a little bit tighter, can be a little bit cagey early on as well. 47.5, we all know how high powered that Denver offense is, but they are going up against a defense which has only allowed 273 yards per game and not many points per game either. They top the league in the number of points that they've allowed. They've only allowed 231 points in total, and they've also topped the league in takeaways and interceptions and turnover differential. So a real match of styles there. If anything, I'd probably be looking a little bit at the unders, especially with the weather predicted to be cold in the Big Apple for the game at the MetLife. Let's just take a look at reflect on the season. This is the second time, as I've said, in the past 20 seasons the game will feature the two number one seeds in each conference. So the last one was that Super Bowl when New Orleans defeated Indianapolis and Peyton Manning in the 2009 season. Of course, that game famous for that onside kick which started the second half, a play called Ambush, which Sean Payton famously called for the Saints to give them that momentum into the second half. And Super Bowl 48, well, it will pit the top offense, Denver, against the league's best defense. As I've said, the Broncos led the NFL with 606 points this year, while the Seahawks allowed a league low 231 points. The Seahawks and Broncos, well, they both advanced to Super Bowl 48 with home wins on championship game weekend. Seattle defeating San Francisco 23-17, and Denver knocked off New England 26-16 in a game which looks a little bit closer than it actually was. The Seahawks, well, they're appearing in the Super Bowl for the second time in their history and seeking their first win, while the Broncos are entering their 7th visit to the game and seek their 3rd victory, having won on their past 2 visits. So there's a little bit of history there. Of course, these two teams used to be in the same division before before we had the last expansion, and the divisions were rejigged, and they were old division rivals up until 2002. So there is a little bit of rivalry there. Let's take a look at the game now and the match dynamics, and we'll start with the Broncos. Now Denver, they've got an opportunistic defence. It's been a little bit maligned, but they do have holes in there because of injuries. The Broncos' best cover man, Chris Harris, he's out. Their best pass rusher, Von Miller, he's also out. They've struggled to get to the quarterback without blitzing, as evidenced by the 3 hits they got on Tom Brady in the AFC title game. But The Seahawks should feel like they have an opportunity to throw the ball against this secondary, although Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie in one corner is probably one to avoid. He has terrific ball skills, but if Champ Bailey is matched up with Percy Harvin in the slot, that's a real fun matchup. But although the Seattle area attack has been maligned and possibly a little bit under the weather in recent weeks, as a unit they can play a part here against a Denver pass defence which can struggle at times, and I think you might see Seattle air the ball out a little bit more than you think they will. Now Denver's offence, it's truly multi-dimensional. As I've mentioned before, Manning is just a distributor of the football. He likes to work inside the hash marks and out and find an open man. It's not a question of him of finding people who of having a favourite receiver. He spreads the ball around well. It's a point I want to open out when I preview the game in our match preview, which I'll put on the website, where I can just explain a little bit more of the tactical elements of this game. But the biggest thing to understand about this offence, it's predicated on moving the chains, not making any negative plays, always going forward. Manning understands just about every defence you can throw at him. He's continually processing information about every defensive game plan and every successive offensive play he runs. He's not just a quarterback, he's almost an offensive coordinator as well. Manning has lots of weapons at his disposal, and this offence taking on the Seattle defence is a tremendous head-to-head and tactical battle. Now the strength of the Denver defence is up front in its run defence, and defensive tackle Terrence Knighton, or Pot Roast as he's better known, has done a terrific job taking on double teams and occasionally pressuring the quarterback when he has a one-on-one matchup. The defence is predicated to not giving up. They mustn't give up big plays. They don't want to give up plays. They want to keep people in front of you and not buckling in the red zone. They're very good at stopping sides there and trying to stop the run. And the Seahawks' Marshall Lynch is another great part of this fascinating chess match, and how they try and stop him. I think they'll be trying to keep him from running outside. They want to keep him inside the tackles. That's where they're strongest. If you let him get outside the tackles, then he can get into an open field, and he's a great open field runner, and he's good at breaking tackles, a point I want to make just later in this preview. The Broncos must also take care of the rock if they're going to run more running plays on Sunday, and it's something I think they'll do. They struggled in their Week 12 game against the Patriots. The Broncos coughed the ball up 5 times and lost 3 fumbles. They've been much better lately on Sunday, and I think they might use the running game a little bit more than they have been. Those fumbles against the Patriots that I referred to allowed them to climb back from a 24-point deficit and win the game. Any turnover can turn the tide in the game, even more so in a Super Bowl. And I've already told you how good the Seahawks are on their turnover differential. They will be looking for those. The Seahawks are past masters at forcing turnovers and fumbles, and if Denver do run the ball, they've got to hang on to the rock. Monty Ball in particular has had trouble fumbling, and shows no Sean Moreno. They must hang on to the ball. There will be much focus on one Thomas for the Broncos on Sunday, their wide receiver Demarius. But I think it will be their tight end Julius Thomas who has a bigger part to play. He could force some interesting matchup with the Seattle defence, and if I could pick one player out who may strike it big on Sunday, it will be this Thomas by the name of Julius. Now let's look at the Seahawks. I thought that their quarterback Russell Wilson looked much better in the NFC title game than in previous rounds against New Orleans, for instance, and it was important for him to come back after that early fumble. He never seems to lose his poise for a very young quarterback, and he's special because of his ability to make what I call something out of nothing. It's like that incredible scramble and the 51-yard pass play to Doug Baldwin against the 49ers. If Percy Harvin is able to play, and more of him later, he will make a huge difference for this offence, which, although lacking a true vertical threat in their passing game, is a more solid unit than they are given credit for. And in Wilson, they have a very good quarterback who has poise and maturity beyond his years and can use his legs. Now, with doubts about much of the passing attack for Seattle, much of the onus of the offence and the way to get them going will fall on the shoulders of Marshall Lynch, and he will need to be at his best against a tough front seven of the Broncos. Lynch, as I've already said, is extremely good at gaining yards after contact, and once again Seattle will need Lynch to engage beast mode if they are to win the Super Bowl and not place all their onus on the defence to get them there. Now, special teams, I think, are going to play a big part in this game. And the Seahawks have a solid kicker in Stephen Hauschka. I think he's only missed one field goal all year. He has a long of 54 this year, and it's going to be difficult kicking conditions, I think, in New York. But he is solid. But it's their return man, Percy Harvin, who could make a real difference. Now, Harvin's been out a lot of this year, but he's an electric returner, and he makes you nervous when he has the ball in his hands. Now, not nervous in the way that you think he's going to cough it up, but what he can do with it. His last 3 kick returns have gone for 39, 43 and 58 yards. I just wonder if he could break one for a big one on Sunday if he does play. Now, defence. You can't get away from Seattle without talking about their defence. This is a tremendous Seattle defence, and one that I enjoy watching on a weekly basis. The front four does a great job of getting to the quarterback, and they can cause pressure with just 4, and they will want to collapse the pocket on Peyton Manning. He loves to step up and throw, have a clean pocket. You must disrupt the pocket. Free agent additions like Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill have been huge in allowing Seattle to rotate in pass rushes and get pressure on opposing quarterbacks by only rushing 4, and that gives you plenty in the secondary to handle any aerial game and aerial threat, which of course Denver will bring. This group plays with an attitude, and it really rallies to the football. Its calling card is its physicality. Something to watch on Sunday. I wonder how far the referees are going to let them go, because they do push things, Seattle. One of the most penalised teams in the league, but it's a fine line that they're treading. Now, whether it's Richard Sherman on the outside, or Earl Thomas, or Cam Chancellor at safety, they are really, really physical. Sherman will line up on the left side of the defence most of the time and match up against the opposition's top target. Now, I think that was obviously going to be Demaryius Thomas. Chancellor could be very important in this game because he'll have likely the task of slowing Julius Thomas down one-on-one, and that's a big, big call. But the guy I really like out of this is Earl Thomas. He has had a fantastic season. His stats are unbelievable this year, Earl Thomas, and he really, really has played an excellent game. He's the only safety in the past decade to record at least 100 tackles, 5 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles in a single season. If you were looking for a wild card as someone to be MVP and a really mad bet, Earl Thomas would be the one to pick out. Now, Seattle play what is known as a base 4-3 defence with some 3-4 looks, and that's been getting a lot of combination coverage with Sherman in man on one side. If the Seahawks can continue to get pressure with 4 and drop 7 into coverage against Manning, they have a great chance. They have a really great chance to win. I really like the Seattle defence, and it's going to be a fascinating matchup. Now, there's always X factors in the game. Percy Harvin, I mentioned him earlier. I've already mentioned him on returns. Now, he may seem an obvious choice as the X factor, but he can affect the game in so many ways. This guy's been out all season with concussions and injuries. If he's back and fit, Seattle's offense was so much more dangerous against New Orleans when he was in the lineup. He draws the defense's attention and is a playmaker in space. Seattle must look to get him involved with runs, little bubble screens, option routes, and any other way that he can. I think he could be a real factor. Now, I mentioned at the top of the show our exclusive trading statistics sheets. These have loads of information about how the sides have responded in certain situations before and how often they go on to win a game in certain situations. We've looked at hundreds of games of how these sides matched up, and sides similar to them as well have matched up. So we're dealing with a very, very big sample size. These give us a great guideline and a price to compare with what is an offer at any point from the bookmakers. So here you can see what the true prices should be in the following situations at half time when we compare games of a similar nature, and how likely situations are to compare throughout the game. So, for instance, if Denver are leading by 7 points at half time, 77% of the time they go on to win the game. If they're leading by 3 points, 66% of the time. Seattle, 56%. So you can just use those little factors in the game, and at any point in the game with any score we can predict a live tissue price. We can also predict the price of sides dashing out to take a 10-0 lead, which is particularly interesting or worthwhile if you're looking at winning margin markets as well. Chances of taking a 10-0 lead here. Denver have a 10% chance, Seattle have a 9% chance. All of these factors are really helpful when you're trading the game. Now, those statistics that I've shown you there, this is a small taster of the cornucopia of data that we have available in those sheets, and sheets that we're developing all the time. We're certainly going to be looking at some more markets next year in points, etc., and even in field position. These are all exclusive to NFL Insight. They're sheets and data we've been working on throughout this season and learned a lot through this season, and via live updates we can fire those into our trading room, which we are live in on Sunday night. That makes us able to assess match odds and the odds available and situations at an instant, and see if there is any value there in the prices as well, with all the strategies that we have available. Now, this match preview that you've watched is just a small part of what we do here at NFL Insight, and if you like what we do, well, subscribe to the NFL Insight TV channel via YouTube. This will be the last preview of this year, but we're looking to add lots of content over the summer with features on the draft and how things are going in free agency, and of course a big preview next year when we'll be back for our third season of NFL Insight. Now, if you also like what we do, our betting focused previews are available via www.betting-insight.com. I'll be back with a very big preview of the Super Bowl that will be available over the weekend. I'll take a look at all the best betting opportunities on the game, but that's factoring in all the tactical factors and some more that I've spoken about in this preview. Now, NFL Insight, it's a new way of looking at the NFL. We're dealing with previews, statistics, trading views and betting advice. So what we're merging together is tactics and betting, and I don't think there's anyone out there on the net who's doing that at the moment. NFL Insight, forefront of a new way of looking at and betting on the NFL. I hope you've enjoyed the previews and the previews that we've run this season. I've been Andy Richmond. I'm really looking forward to Super Bowl 48 on Sunday as the Seattle Seahawks take on the Denver Broncos in the Big Apple. Thank you for watching and listening, and hope to see you again soon on NFL Insight.